And welcome again. This is Ted Hicks, Take 2. Late Night Parents, ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. I'm here tonight without Richard C. Valdez, who is, I think, still celebrating from his graduation picnic part whatever. So big shout outs to Suffolk County, the auxiliary team that handle not only EMT duties, they're also handling crowd control and all the above. So big shout out to them for Suffolk County. Big shout out to 1240 AM WGBB, where we do the show every week. I don't have to say turn my mic up. This is really clear, really quiet. I can hear it. Brian Graves, as always, handling the boards, doing his job. A lot to cover here. Whether it's between the crazy folks, the crazy sports fans that were all caught up in Yankees Red Sox, going nuts about a team that's almost 30 games over 500, and at the same time screaming, fire the manager, which I don't understand, but the station down the dial has nothing but crazy callers that talk about that. Or if you want to talk about the Hall of Fame, or the folks that weren't at the Hall of Fame, we're not talking about that. But a few things that we are talking about, I'll get into it. Because, like I said, this is like a Ted-centric show. This is the way it used to be 2 years ago, before the tag team, before the contributors. Speaking about myself, kind of feels like, woo! It kind of feels like a podcast. I haven't done a podcast in a while. It kind of cheat and take the live show and make it a podcast and send it out to everyone else. Big shout out to our friends at WRAQ 92.7 FM. So let's get to it. I guess I'll give you the points of my frustration this week. I'll take a shot at Sears. I don't know. Brian, I was without a functioning refrigerator for almost 2 weeks. And, you kind of overlook these type of things. And I got to tell you, and when I say this, I don't want to offend anyone, but I got to tell you, being without a refrigerator and being without ice and, cold beverage and things like that, and you kind of wonder about those folks that were displaced in Puerto Rico that were without anything, and they're still waiting on help, and electricity still isn't at 100%. And here we are. It's hurricane season again. Lo and behold, in my story with the refrigerator, all different types of issues, all different types of parts that was changed. And you wouldn't expect it because, number one, it was 3 years old. So it's 3 years old, and you're sitting there, and I got to tell you, my last refrigerator lasted about 13, 14 years. This one, 3 years, conked out, almost died. Couldn't create ice, couldn't keep everything cold. Yeah. Just all the above. But it's finally fixed. I'm happy. I was happy with, not per se Sears themselves, but as you know, like most of these larger corporations, they outsource the work to smaller companies. And I met up with the tech who handled my request, and he did the best job he could do. I mean, I got to tell you, very, very painful situation, but he made it so much better. So I don't even know if Sears gets the thumbs down, but the reseller gets the thumbs up. Definitely was in communication, all the above. I think before last week's show ended, I was speaking with Rich. I'm sitting here looking at a MacBook Air. I had to ask Brian the password. I had to ask him the password because my Retina screen MacBook Pro, the screen is cracked. No one else to thank but my son, my loving son. And I just couldn't turn it around that quick enough. I don't know. I just, I believe, number one, enable your passwords on your devices. That will encourage your children or others to put the device down. It just has to be a deterrent. It has to be a deterrent. So hopefully within the next week or so, when I send it out to be serviced, I can get it back and it is still functioning. So that is the story of my laptop. Sad story number 3 is I've been dealing with raccoon issues at my home in Long Island. Every time I blink my eyes, you have the garbage and all the above that's outside, situated properly. You can hear the raccoons at nighttime bumping around, turning garbage cans over. So once again, I went outside in the morning. I opened my fence, and I see garbage is just everywhere. The one thing last night I will share. Last night I heard the noise, and I went and I turned on the sprinkler system. Didn't help. It was a mess this morning. So you can kind of hear about some of the issues and drama that I run into. So it's not perfect. You listen to the show every week, and you're like, oh, those guys, they laugh, they joke, hee hee, ha 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 ha. It's not always like that. So I guess that's the show. We're going to wrap it up. Not Harley. But I got to tell you this. So I'm going to set this up here. This week we don't have, per se, a live guest. I did a recorded interview earlier, and we were discussing kind of with our good friend Danny Thompson. We were discussing the NBA players, because it's the off season, and this is kind of like their quiet season, their quiet period. But Danny and I were sitting and talking, none other than about what do some of these NBA players do outside of basketball. You just don't play. If you're a baseball player, a football player, hockey player, soccer player, okay, what do you do? What else do you do? Are you impacting change otherwise? And I'll set up the interview like that. This is myself and Danny Thompson earlier today.
And hello again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. I'd like to do a quick hit here. I guess we're going to call this segment Shut Up and Dribble, because of so many of our conservative friends like to have that correspondence with athletes, or if they're celebrities, they'll say, shut up and dance or shut up and sing, all of the above. But I have on the line around the association's own Danny Thompson. Danny, how you doing?
Ted, it's a pleasure always, my friend. The pleasure as always.
What did you take? Because there were a couple of quick hits over this weekend. I know I sent you a brief note on a few people that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to talk about the NBA. I mean, I know your focal point is the NBA, and that's what Around the Association, which is heard on, you can hear it on iHeart, you can hear it on Spotify and all the above, focuses on. There was an interview that happened, I believe, within the last 48 hours. It originally aired on CNN, with Don Lemon and LeBron James, and it caught the eye of our president, Donald Trump, and then chaos started. I mean, everyone's heard the story. I just wanted to know, from the NBA land, what's your take on LeBron's peers and other beat writers like yourself? Your take on that late-night tweet?
I mean, it's just funny how there's so many social issues going on in the world, especially in our own backyard. We have an entire city in Flint that still doesn't have clean water. We have the United States territory, which is Puerto Rico, which is under United States control, that's still trying to rebuild months and months after a hurricane destroyed the entire land. And then the president of the United States is more concerned about LeBron James and a school being opened. It's completely laughable. And, at the same time, the comments in the middle of the night, it struck the ire of the entire league, which shows that the NBA, which is different than everybody else, when it comes to players stepping up for one another, is unparalleled. The NFL doesn't do it. You can't protest the anthem. You can't do what you want to, or not just want to, or just amend your First Amendment rights, to express yourself. And the NBA, what Adam Silver does a great job is that he allows his players to be his players. As you can tell throughout the tweets all week, Donovan Mitchell, Stephen Curry, going up and down the NBA radar, guys were just literally defending one of their own. And it's a beautiful thing to see how the guys around the league just really, even the ones that don't speak, even great guys like Grant Hill, they spoke up about it, and it's a beautiful thing to see the guys in the NBA coming together for solidarity.
That is true. So I wanted to talk about the focal point being, we know the issues, we know about the people that spoke up. Your thoughts on, I guess, LeBron's probably his greatest accomplishments?
It's actually been a really good week. LeBron opening up the school is like something like unequivocal. It's something we have not seen a professional athlete do. No shot to Jalen Rose because he did it in Detroit with his charter school. But LeBron's on a public level. I think it's being a public school, and it's the fact that it's LeBron James, and the fact he said that as long as these kids graduate, he's paying for all these kids to go to school when they graduate. We saw that as one moment this week. Don't forget Derrick Rose, what he did in Chicago. He's helping kids go to college. So it's a beautiful thing to see these athletes, especially in the basketball side of things, just giving back. LeBron James, in his situation, we don't even know how much money he is going to invest in these children from the time I think they're third grade now until the time they graduate. And it's just not him. It's just the legacy of children in the Akron area that's going to be affected by change. And like he said, he was one of those kids that he is putting through right now and missing 84 days of school as a child in the third grade. He was one of those kids. And to see one of those kids grow up, become who he is, and now doing the same for others and letting them have the opportunity not to do what he did is it's just remarkable. It's something of, wow. It's social change. It's like with Muhammad Ali. I mean, it's that type of level of social change that we have not seen from a mega athlete since Muhammad Ali, probably.
In keeping with the social justice and social reform, I will tell you this much. Definitely LeBron is doing a phenomenal job. He should be commended for all that he continues to do. Love the fact that the footprint out in L.A. is going to allow his media company to expand exponentially. Wanted to talk with you about someone you just mentioned social justice. I'm going to mention the name Steve Kerr. He's been a name that has spoken out against the president's policies time and time again. We do know Steve Kerr's background with his dad being killed. Of course, as we talk about, we don't want to take away someone's two-way their Second Amendment right, but these guns need to be reined in some, and it seems like this is one of the fights that we haven't gone anywhere in the past 10 years. You kind of think back to Columbine. You kind of think back to the shooting in Connecticut, and when we go from to Florida to Nevada, you kind of name it. But give us your take on Steve Kerr.
Can Steve Kerr be a national treasure at this point? I mean, the comment on the NRA was just legendary. It was a great response. The NRA is, having issues with funding, and and Steve Kerr's response was, "Well, we'll send our thoughts and prayers." That's what always happens. It's never about helping families or situations when somebody dies due to innocent gunfire, or because guns aren't reined in, and families. They said these different incidents in schools and these different situations. No one's ever trying to send money. It's always prayers and condolences. And Steve Kerr basically gave them, in literally less than 10 words, probably the best tweet we've seen in a long time. It's what a lot of people are thinking. The only difference is that he is on a national platform, and nowadays it is wonderful to see people step up and speak up against social injustice. And Steve Kerr has just been, it's not the first time he's done it on multiple occasions. It's just that one is one of the best responses I have seen from anybody in a long time. So he gets kudos and credit because he said something a lot of people have been wanting to say. He just has a bigger platform to say it.
That is true. That is true. I mean, and as always, with it, I think we're less than 60 days away from being able to exercise our right to vote. You got to go out there. You got to vote. You got to, but more importantly, you got to do your research. Go look and go see who the NRA has donated funding to, so that you can see when a tragedy happens and then there's no movement. I mean, I know out where you are, your senator, Marco Rubio, has received about $3 million from the NRA. And he kind of, from time to time does a little dance, says a little something, but really not enough. Want to segue to your thoughts on, and it caught a little bit of media, this person, Hall of Famer, or should I say soon-to-be Hall of Famer if he's not a Hall of Famer already, but didn't do so well. That didn't translate into coaching opportunities with the Bucks and the Nets. Jason Kidd. What's your take on Jason Kidd's endeavor? And his endeavor is really more the golfing app, 18 Birdies. What's your take on someone like him or these athletes getting into Silicon Valley?
That was one of the reasons why Kevin Durant was so intrigued about going to go out in Oakland, because of the fact of Silicon Valley. It's great to see athletes step into other ventures. Like Jason Kidd's app is one of them. There are plenty of guys who have done apps. I think James Harden has one. Guys doing different things with spreading their wings. And like I say, Jason Kidd's golf app is amazing. It's a great way, a great tool for golfers all across the country. Hey, let him do as many golf apps as possible. As long as he's not coaching them how to bench, we're perfectly fine with everything. As long as he's not running a front office, he's good with me. But no, it's great to see our athletes, not just the NBA, but all across the professional spectrum, do different things other than just play their sports. Whether it be stepping up for social change, whether it be getting into businesses, whether it be getting into into apps, getting into other side businesses. There's so many athletes now. There were so many athletes 10, 15, 20 years ago, when their careers were over, they were broke. I mean, we saw 30 for 30 that was out about athletes being broke.
Yeah.
Now with technology and the way things are going, and guys understanding that money doesn't last forever, you have to have money keep coming in order to sustain money. I think it's so great to watch these athletes take their money and do something good with it. if it's building apps, if it's starting companies, starting foundations, being able to start generational wealth. And that's what it's going to sustain these athletes. And you're not going to see as many athletes go broke. And Antoine Walker was one of them. His whole story was he went broke. In 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, Ted, it was a rarity to see people like Magic Johnson or Jamal Mashburn, guys who were super successful, not just on the court, but off the court. Now, it's like the gold standard. If you don't have something off the floor, you're not doing nothing with your money. Very few athletes are Marshawn Lynch.
That's true.
Very few athletes are Kawhi Leonard, guys who have never even spent their entire rookie contract. Marshawn Lynch is still spending his rookie contract, 10, 15 years into the league? So
yeah.
He's still spending his rookie contract.
I think a lot of that, and I don't want to hold you because I know we're short for time, it involves their support system, and I'm sorry to say it's going to involve, their families and their families, their current conditions. I mean, it sounds like we're taking shots, but it's the truth. Because how it is,
I agree with a lot of it, but at the same time, guys are understanding that it's more important to make sure you're taken care of when your playing days roll because, Ted, one injury ends your entire career. You could be, especially in the NFL, for example. NFL is the one of the four, I think is the number one of the major four that one injury can end everything. It can end everything. Basketball, the worst thing you have is an Achilles injury. In the NFL, you can be out because of concussions. You can have seriously career-ending injuries in the NFL, and those guys have to be able to take care of sustain themselves.
That's true.
Because we all know that retired players don't make much of anything.
No, they don't. And once they're out of the limelight, the one thing I want to capitalize on here is the money itself. So let's just say you're getting a $20 million deal you sign, and you get $15 million up front, and you have $5 million to over the next years. And let's say your career is done after that. It's the lifestyle that you continue. I think at some certain point, while that money is coming in and you're living it up, but that money slows down and stops, and you're still living that same lifestyle, and you're in a specific tax bracket, where if your house is $50,000 in taxes a year, but that money has stopped, one would think you got to leave. But I mean, we've talked way too many times about athletes, and we've spoken with many athletes ourselves that have said, hey, yeah, I mismanaged my funds, and here's where I am, and this is why I'm pitching this product on your show. Hey, what is your take on last topic? And probably one of my favorite players, Steve Nash. And when I say one of my favorite players, he's so versatile that we knew Steve Nash from the NBA, but we are now learning of the Steve Nash from soccer, from football, from learning that he's so well versed that TNT signed him up for the championship league, the Champions League. And what's your take on Steve Kerr not only being an analyst for soccer, something that you would think is not his sweet spot, but I think he's also either a minority owner or co-owner of his own team?
Steve Nash is one of those guys. He's a rarity. Like you said, he's a rarity in what he does because he was just as talented on the soccer field as he was on the basketball court. And a lot of people really know how good he was on the soccer field. He grew up playing soccer in Canada. It's the fact that, he just was really good as a shooter and a distributor. I think he was a midfielder, I want to say, in soccer. So he knows the playmaking ability. And the thing is, he grew up playing soccer his entire life. I mean, he has, I know he's done, I think for the last I want to say at least about 5 years, probably more than that, he organized an off-season soccer game to benefit a couple of charity foundations. And he does it, and he has NBA players, he has, soccer players, he has actors, actresses, people in entertainment, and they play soccer with him in New York City, actually. So, and he's been really big in the soccer community, and you see him at the World Cup, and so it's like I said, it's the diversity of athletes doing something to do great. Like I said, this week we had a whole bunch of NBA players over in Africa this week. Yeah. Not just playing the African game, they were helping build schools and teaching academies. The WNBA, some of the older retired WNBA players, as well as our current day NBA players over there, building relationships and helping kids in Africa play basketball. You saw Bismack Biyombo, and Joel Embiid carrying bricks and helping building schools out there in academies. So it's great to see those things out there now.
That is fantastic. Hey, Danny, as always, I want to thank you for joining us. Give us a quick hit on ways to follow your show and follow you on social media.
Follow me on Twitter at NBADT29. The Around the Association podcast, I'm releasing one actually tomorrow morning, going over, it's August 1st, we're in August now, so it's kind of a dead period in basketball, so it's time to reel back in, or as Jay-Z would say, Dear Summer. So I'm starting the Dear Summer series tomorrow, going over all your teams in 15 minutes, what they did over the summer. And check out the website, aroundtheassociation.com. And we've got a few things coming up. The show is on Spreaker, iHeart, iTunes, anything that you can find a podcast app, we're on there. So, Ted, it's always a pleasure being on the show with you tonight. So,
all right, my friend. Thanks again.
As always.
All right, and that again was my friend Danny Thompson for the Shut Up and Dribble segment. Around Association is a great podcast. You can find it any way you listen to your podcasts. The ins and outs of the NBA. He does talk a little bit of USA basketball and all the above also. So once again, Danny Thompson, NBA on Twitter, NBA DT29, and the Around Association podcast. So I got a question. Tex neck. You're like, huh? Tex neck. What does text neck mean? Does text neck mean trouble for those addicted to mobile devices? And you're probably like, what in the world are you talking about, Ted? Well before the invention of cell phones, medical experts agreed that poor posture is the leading cause of back and neck pain. But the explosion of the 24/7 cell phone use has seriously compounded this problem and even given rise to a new medical condition called text neck. Text neck is the nickname for all back, neck, and spinal issues affecting those who spend way too much time on their cell phones and mobile devices. It's due to the constant hunching over people due to, to peer into their mobile screens, which malforms the spine. Physicians are reporting children as young as 8 years old are affected. Collectively, Americans check their smartphones over 8 billion times per day. And young adults between the ages of 18 to 24 send or receive 109.5 text messages per day. So just look at any crowd of young people, chances are most are exhibiting very poor posture, from tilting their head down to reading their devices. This forces their neck and back muscles to work at awkward angles. Just keep the body upright, and pain and strain is often the result. Cell phones aren't going anywhere, so it looks like text neck will become a health problem of epidemic proportion in the years ahead. If this trend continues, it looks like in 20 years, the number of people who will have spinal issues due to this will basically grow astronomically. The best way to check your mobile device is to stand up straight, look at your device at eye level of reading it next to you, to your torso, which usually results in your chin going down towards your chest. Or lie on your stomach when spending long periods of time on your phone. This provides a safe and natural passive isometric exercise to restore the natural curve to your neck. Now, what I just said sounds great, right? But if you're on a crowded train, whether it's a Long Island Railroad, commuter train or a subway train, try checking your text messages that way, and you're going to get, bopped over your head by someone else on the train. So here's a couple of things that you could do that will help you fight text neck. Take breaks from desk jobs. So when working at a computer, take a short break every 15 to 20 minutes. Then move around and change your body and head positions. You can adjust your workspace. So this is primarily for people that are in their private offices, because if you're in today's world, it's like a global workspace where you go out there and you're sitting amongst your peers and everyone's in a interconnected cubicle. So this wouldn't apply to you, but then again, maybe it might. Set your computer monitor at eye level. You raise your smartphone to eye level rather than lowering your head. Get a tablet holder to elevate the device close to eye level. If possible, get a standing desk or ergonomic chair. Don't slouch at your desk. I think that might be the most important update that you can hear, is don't slouch at your desk. Because I can tell you from working downtown or working at an office job, most of the people you see, they're slouching in their chairs. They're sitting there kind of sloppily because I guess they might feel, that's the comfortable way to sit there. But it's not the healthy way to sit there. Use voice to text as possible, as often as possible. This cuts down on the amount of time you're looking down at your phone. Okay. I mean, nowadays you have with Siri and Cortana and Alexa and everything else like that, you kind of have your virtual assistant there. Hold your phone at eye level. Now, this has been repeated a couple of times. Do not look down and allow your chin to move towards your chest when you are on your mobile device. This causes the back of your neck to support the head instead of the shoulders. You got to take some preventative measures because it's easier than trying to treat a spine that is already out of alignment. Beware of text neck. How about that? I think you learned something today on Late Night Parents, huh? Hey, don't know about you. Have you guys been following MoviePass and all the craziness that's going on? Well, the parent company, Helios and Matheson Analytics Incorporated, they're basically an IT service management firm. Not sure about you. The thing with MoviePass is a great idea. It's a great deal where you get the pass and, you based on, I don't know, $15 per week or per month or whatever the monthly subscription service is, you get to see up to 4 or 5 or 6 movies. I'm not sure about you, but guys, that has been an utter disaster. But on the other side, with the parent company, the stock for Helios and Matheson is currently at 70 cents. I will tell you, when MoviePass first dropped, I did purchase their stock. So I am a shareholder of, 30 to 40 shares, and my shares are now worth 70 cents per share. So how about that, Ted? Boom, 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 boom. One thing I wanted to mention that we mentioned earlier in the earlier discussion was, I wish Rich was here so he can hear me say this. Now with the NRA experiencing financial woes, there's been numerous people on social media to mention thoughts and prayers to them and hoping that, and it's kind of ironic because as we see, from whether it's a school shooting or mass shooting, and, the only thing that's said from politicians or NRA spokespersons are thoughts and prayers. So Thoughts and prayers to them with their financial woes. And we mean that sarcastically. Don't know about you guys, but the best thing I heard all week long from the TCA event that went on, CBS, well, we were talking about CBS last week, and its CEO, Les Moonves, the drama that's going on there, but wanted to talk about, it was mentioned yesterday, and I don't think if it was TCA or if it was the Star Trek convention, a Captain Picard centric show. How about that? Patrick Stewart is going to return, and he's going to play Captain Jean-Luc Picard. But not the Jean-Luc Picard that you remember, because I think it's been about 20 years or so. So you kind of wonder. We're doing this stuff today. We're doing the show today. Brian is here engineering the show today. But what will we be doing in 20 years? Do you think we would be doing this? Part of you wants to say, well, I hope so. And the other part wants to say, well, I hope you graduated on to do something else. You have some other type of hobby. But I think the idea is great with Jean-Luc Picard. He played, Sir Patrick Stewart played the role for 178 episodes and 4 movies. So I like the idea of Jean-Luc Picard kind of in an Ambassador Spock type role. He might not be, a captain or an admiral of a starship, but I'm sure there's going to be some type of adventures that are going to happen. And you kind of wonder, and we understand this is science fiction and everything else like that, but this allows us to kind of dream a little bit. Because it was an iconic role. I'm really, really excited about that. I kind of want to see, does he, will he cross over? Is he time traveling? Is he doing this? Is he doing that? What's he going to be doing? But don't expect the show won't be available anytime soon. I'm thinking the show is going to be available probably in 2020. So around about the same time as the election, the 2020 election. So, I think ultimately in these day and ages that we need a little something that's going to, make us happy. I don't know. That at least makes me happy. I don't know about you, but older Americans tend to neglect their oral care, and it puts their overall health at risk. And you ask yourself, the biggest health risk to our elderly is their teeth. Parents constantly remind their children to brush and floss and routinely schedule dental checkups to make sure their teeth and gums are healthy and staying that way. But youngsters aren't the only ones that can use such reminders. Older Americans need to put a priority on their oral health as well as research as well. And research shows that as a group, they aren't doing so. In fact, the basic statistics are grim. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that almost every single American over the age of 65%, and that's 96%, has had a cavity, and 20% have untreated tooth decay. Another 65% suffer from gum disease, an ailment that has been linked to a host of other problems, such as strokes, heart disease, and diabetes. Anyone who thinks they can ease up on dental care as they age is making a big, big mistake. Not only do poor dental habits affect what's going on in your mouth, they also affect your overall health. So here's some of the findings from the CDC. Tooth loss. As I mentioned before, nearly 1 in 5 adults age 65 or older have lost all of their teeth. Complete tooth loss is twice as prevalent among adults age 75 and older compared to adults age 65 to 74. The CDC points out that, missing teeth or wearing dentures have a detrimental effect on nutrition. It's not surprising that people who have lost teeth or wear dentures often are going to choose soft food they choose easily. They will pass up fresh fruits and vegetables that are more nutritious, but are more difficult for them to eat. Oral cancer. Cancer of the mouth, oral, is primarily diagnosed in older adults. So the median at diagnosis is 62 years. So that's another reason it's important for older people to have regular checkups. Your dentist can check for signs of oral cancer during those visits. Dry mouth is caused by medication. So as we know, most older Americans take both prescription and over-the-counter drugs, so many of which cause dry mouth. Reduced saliva flow increases the risk of cavities. Saliva helps prevent tooth decay, gum disease, and bad breath, and also lubricates the mouth, making it easier to eat, swallow, speak, and taste food. Sometimes dry mouth just might cause mild discomfort, and at other times it can lead to significant oral disease that can compromise the person's health, dietary intake, and quality of life. As you age, proper oral care is just as important as ever. It's not something you want to ignore because of your overall health is at stake. And folks, this is, extremely important and extremely urgent. Don't mean to sound preachy, but you got to take care of it. For those that do have health insurance or do have the fundings to go to the dentist, and if you can get there every 6 months, or maybe even your dentist advises you to, hey, we're noticing, X amount of calcium buildup on your teeth, so maybe you need to come every 4 months for a cleaning. You got to listen to your dentist. Get out there, do the right thing. This is stuff that we've taught our children. And then, at some point, what I noticed is, so when I was a youngster, I always had my father, and he's telling me, and we're talking, and he's telling me what to do, and mother also telling me what to do. But then it gets to a point where, like, that shift happens. And when that shift happens, you're, for the most part, you're following up with your parents and checking in on them and making sure they're making their doctor's visits and everything else like that. Dental hygiene, dental care, very, 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 very important. Got to be smart. Got to be smart, and these are things you got to get done. I think I haven't done a break in a while. This is Late Night Parents. This is Ted Hicks. We're talking the latest and greatest in technology, sports, education. We do a little bit of product reviews. We talk social justice. We talk the society. We talk all the above. Next segment is for our podcasters that are out there. Podcasting is, it has been, the craze for the last, last 10 years or so. Because a lot of people nowadays, because you have these conferences, let's say the podcast movement conference, because everyone nowadays is looking for ways to monetize their podcast. Okay, so I do a show. Now I've captured it. I've snipped the head and the tail. I've shared it on Facebook and Twitter, and I've put it up on Instagram and everything. Now what? We got 4 practical ways to repurpose your podcast content. Podcasting is one of the most effective mediums in the modern world. With a microphone and some free editing software, individuals and businesses spread their message in the form of on-demand, internet-based audio shows. According to some stats released about 6 months ago, March in 2018, over 44% of the U.S. population has listened to podcasts. Up to 80% of podcast listeners stay tuned for all or most of each episode, averaging a total of 7 shows a week. When one looks at the growth of podcasting over the last 5 years, it's been an explosive upward trend that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. So with the incredible popularity of podcasting today, it should come as to no shock that businesses are becoming more involved in the growing medium, whether through advertising or creating shows of their own. But those who produce a podcast and stop there are missing the beneficial marketing opportunities. It's possible to repurpose your podcast content, extending its reach far beyond the listening audience. So here's 4 practical ways to repurpose your podcast content for maximum engagement. Not sure about you guys, but we do for Late Night Parents, transcripts and show notes. The most successful podcasts have a website. While some see this as only a place to host the audio content, others have made it a resource for their listeners. Many podcasts have created online communities where listeners can come together and share these ideas and bond over the common love of the show. A standard feature of podcast websites are show notes or transcripts, wherein all or part of the show's audio is compiled and written out, either as an outline or full-blown retelling. This is effective because it allows users to share quotes and content easily. Also, if the host references an article or video in the show, this gives them an opportunity to link to it. Transcripts also help with visibility, allowing internet searchers to find the show while looking for similar content. That being said, it's important to ensure that a podcast website is SEO optimized for maximum exposure. Okay, so that was a lot there. And what we covered are transcripts and show notes to go along with your podcast. So you create your show, you post it, then what else? Well, for those that are into transcripts and everything like that, you can create it for them. Number 2 is video content. The most effective way to repurpose podcast content into this platform is to shoot video while recording the show. We've done that a couple times here. Since most of these podcasts operate using Skype, there are many video recording programs which can capture all sides of Skype conversation. And this is especially helpful for big interviews that the listening audience would want to see. So, as we also know, on top of Skype, Google Hangouts has a feature which allows the podcasters to broadcast live their show directly to YouTube. The simplest way to place a podcast on YouTube is to overlay a static show logo over the audio and upload the video to YouTube. Services like YouTube Red, which is gaining popularity, allows YouTube to be played in the background of a mobile device or while the screen is deactivated. Outside of YouTube, there are other apps out there that can make turning podcasts into video content a breeze. The third one is visual graphics. As we noticed, they're going to get a little bit more in detail. But podcast content becomes slide presentations and infographics as well. So using a slideshow program like PowerPoint or SlideShare, while you're talking, giving the moving presentation shows the content through text and images and videos and more. Infographics are popular and easily shareable, and hosts can feature some of their more popular content in forms of charts, graphs, images, and overlaid with text. Number 4 is the social media. So outside of iTunes, podcasts should live on social media. So what does that really mean? It means every show should have a brand page or Facebook discussion group. This gives the audience a place to congregate and share content with fellow listeners and the show hosts. While using the show's website is also helpful for this, social media platforms are far more frequented, and the potential to draw new eyes to podcast content is far greater. Of course, Facebook is a great place to share some of the videos, links, transcripts, and infographics. Features like Facebook Live also give hosts the ability to interact with their audience verbally outside the confines of the show. The key to it is if you follow any of these 4 points, whether it's the transcripts and show notes, the video content, the visual graphics, or social media, is to stand out in the crowd, because the beauty of podcasting is that anyone can do it. But because anyone could do it, the medium has become crowded. Repurposing podcast content is one of the most effective ways businesses can extend their show's reach and increase visibility. I tell you, for one, with Late Night Parents, we've done podcasts, I think, since 2014 to 2015. Okay? I have then, so collectively, maybe roughly about 200 shows. There are times when I'm not available to do a live show here at the studio. But you know what I do? I just cut up a show. Cut it up. Throw, our engineers is kind enough to throw us the intro and outro music. Splice a couple of interviews together, and you have a show. Whether it's your 30-minute medium or your 55-minute medium, or for those of you, the super talkers who can go 2 to 4 hours, I say God bless you guys. Your podcast content, I would say, should be broken up into chunks. So you can share your large show, or let's say we do a 55 or so minute show. But what I also do is share 10 or 12 minute segments, because all the time people don't have that time to listen to your show. So you want to give them just enough so that whether it's a video or whether it's a quick clip, and you might pull a couple new, your audience, a few new listeners, or to the crowd. The key thing for me, before we get to close out, is every podcast I turn it into a blog post. That way you can be sure. Yes, having SoundCloud and all the other mediums are great, but having it on your website and knowing that Google is crawling your website, that blog post is going to live forever, along with, the content. A Twitter post, a Facebook post, or tweeting from Twitter, that's going to last as long as you can remember, because there's so many tweets going out per minute. Facebook itself has 2.2 billion users, everyone pushing out. So who's to say that someone's going to see your show or not? I didn't mean to be as preachy, but I hope that last segment can help fellow podcasters out there. We have the blog post that's available on latenightparents.com. Other than that, I'm going to say we will be back next week with another episode. And I believe Richie V will be back. I believe Brian's